to bust this one out, man?
Welcome, six-time Ironman finisher, co-host of the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast, Mike Tarrolly.
Oh, hey, it's so great to be here.
And asterisk, also owner of the longest finish line soak-in in the history of Ironman.
You think so there?
Oh man, you were. I mean, I could see. I was in. It looked like a Tarrolly 2020 expo. Like you were kissing hands and shaking babies, and no, it was good. It was fun to watch after what was a not fun day on the course for many athletes at Ironman Louisville.
My sister said she really enjoyed that display. The hugging.
Yeah, I think everybody did. I thought it was great.
I just I think just about every other race I've done, I knew I had something on the clock. There was a situation where I didn't want to, take off too much time.
Mm-hmm.
But for this one, I knew I wasn't in the money. I hadn't hit my run goal. There was really nothing waiting. So I said, I knew we had a ton of people there, and I seemed to see most of them. So it was just like, you know what? I'm going to do this once and just see how it feels. But
and you loved it, I'm sure.
I did. I really enjoyed it. But even though the race, I did do the race and all that, I just do not want it to fall through the cracks that you coached 25 athletes yesterday on a tremendously challenging race, or in a challenging race, 12-time first Ironman finishers, and I just want to just put that out there for you, because I know that day was unbelievable. It had to be. I mean, I was out there in 50 degrees, rainy, cold, windier than I thought. At least it affected me. And I always think about, my God, what am I going through? I'm kind of a semi-tough northern Wisconsin guy, and I just was thinking about everybody else and what that meant, and how you had to be thinking as a coach to be, especially on the bike.
Man, it was it was amazing.
And how in general it felt, for you.
Totally exhausting. I think, let's see, I was up at 5:15. It didn't get back. 5:15 a.m. It didn't get back Sunday. I didn't get back in the hotel room till a little after 1 a.m. This morning, and I'm already back in Nashville. It was a unique day that I'll probably never have again, and I think that kind of set in for me in transition, and we had a ton of our team there just to spectate too, and we were with them, and I think I said this a few times. I said, if everybody gets off the bike today, safe and sound and warm, then it'll be a win.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you want them all to finish, but the first thing was just getting them off the bike and having all 25 athletes get to the start line healthy, and then finish on what was just a brutal day with a really high DNF rate. I think it's without question the greatest day I've ever had coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. I mean, it's not. I don't even think it's close. Just to have so many athletes that are it's crazy. I mean, to look at how high the DNF rate was, and for us to have nobody DNF says so much about our athletes, and that how were they prepared? Sure, but you can't prepare for the conditions you were in yesterday. You can dabble in it, but you can't fully prepare. And it was amazing to watch. It was I think I got misty-eyed at least 6 or 7 times.
Wow. Emotions are flowing, bro.
In the finisher chute. It's just your mind's racing all day, and it's just weird. You know that everything these people have gone through, and so when you finally get to release some of it, it was a very, very special day, and I couldn't be any prouder of the athletes that were there, and just that toughed it out. And you got to be tough, and I love working with tough athletes. You have to be tough, I think, to work well with me. In general, I'm not the easiest person to deal with all the time, and I push people probably more mentally and emotionally than I do physically, to be honest. And they don't like that all the time, and I make them make decisions for themselves. But it pays off, and it doesn't always pay off. You don't always get to see it pay off because you sometimes don't have days like you had yesterday. But I mentally and emotionally, I think I mentally and emotionally prepared our athletes as good as I could have for a day like that, beyond physically, and I'm super happy, very happy.
Well, you must have, because I'm pretty sure nobody, probably 99% of the field, and certainly our athletes, probably the same percentage, have never been through anything like that, in the sense of who has had a 50-degree rainy 6 or 7 hour ride in their life. You know what I mean? It was like the first time they're going to face something like that. And it's you can argue it, but, for a lot of them, it was the most important time they would ever face something like that. So to have them come through that, and what you said about, the balance of the spectators that we had there, the C26 team was unbelievable. And I have to throw a special thanks out to Matt and Amanda Dickinson, because they came from damn near Canada. Seriously.
14-hour drive.
Yeah, to come in and spectate and take care of things. And Matt took it upon himself. He offered his services as my Sherpa, which I've never formally had a Sherpa title person in my life, but wow, he went above and beyond. Like, it was pretty crazy. I was at the point where, I'm not a kid. I mean, he was doing things for me that, it just was like, in a kind of a silly way. It's sort of like, wow, man, somebody does care. It's like this weird thing where, you don't have to go through life alone on everything. And that's sort of like how I roll, and I think that's the underlying thread of what's going on with this group. And the people that were there, it was like they were just doing stuff for people and going out of their way for, for lack of stuff. It's like stuff that was going on are things that you feel like you got to pay somebody for, or give somebody something back for, and they just wanted to do it. And that there's nothing more, I guess, gratifying than having people like that around in general. It's not, triathlon, Ironman aside, it was just all over the board with that. So
it was a great day. And if you're whenever you will listen to this, because obviously not everybody listens to it in real time. And the Ironman Louisville was yesterday. It was our huge team event. We have a ton of people there in our closed Crushing Iron group on Facebook. And I think everybody knew with a couple of days to go it was going to be a really kind of a rough, cooler day. Rain was coming in and out of the forecast, and the temps kept actually getting cooler. And they made the decision on about what it was, feels like 5 minutes before the pros were to go off. And I think it was because the pros tried to swim upstream and couldn't. And so they ended up shortening the swim because of how strong the current was. And I will tell you this, and I 100% agree it, for all those, knuckleheads that say you didn't do the 2.4, doing that 0.9 mile swim made the day significantly more difficult.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And I say that because, you either could have done the whole swim or not done the swim, and had time to put on your bike gear, and you've been totally dry. You do, or
that's a good point too.
Or you do the whole 2.4 mile swim, and you got your wetsuit on, and you get an hour and 10, for some athletes, an hour and a half to get warm, to get things going. But instead, they basically just like dunked you in cold water and pulled you right out, and then said, "Go." And then said, "Go get on the bike." Okay, go get on the bike cold, run through transition in like the sand and the mud, and then we're going to send you off in the rain on slick roads, and then you're going to go ahead and have, anywhere from 16 to 20 mile an hour, wind with you riding, and also going to have some wind in the course. So have fun with that. And it rained on and off the whole day. Just when you thought it was going to stop raining, it would keep misting, like just enough to keep things wet.
Mm-hmm.
And the wind was intense out on the course. And one of our athletes texted me, I think, and said the first athletes DNF'd at like before mile 20 of the bike. And from all the reports I've read and seen and looked online, looks like anywhere between 700 to 900 people DNF'd yesterday.
Wow. Really?
Ironman. Well, yeah. From what I would imagine is either the cold or the bike wrecks, or people couldn't feel their hands to change their nutrition. And I remember it was sad. I remember sitting right there coming out of T1 and looking at pointing people and saying DNF, DNF, DNF. And I wasn't saying it in a, I hope you don't finish. It was a, why are you dressed like it's going to be 85 and sunny?
Mm-hmm.
Or what did you really feel saving 5 minutes in transition was going to that was going to make your day? People lost. I was texting with an athlete earlier, said you had, and that's one of the other benefits I think of having a coach is, we had our team pre-race dinners, like 60 people there Friday night, and I didn't really feel like I gave a pep talk, but we talked about pacing. But then the reality of it is I spent 80% of the time talking about wardrobe, what to wear, how to wear it, what to put on, and our kind of motto, ended up being, stay warm to perform. And I don't care what you wear. I don't care what you look like. I don't care if you're, you spend all this money on your tri bike and these kits and stuff, and you ended up rocking like your $28.30 Dick's Sporting Goods clearance rack outfit. If you're warm, then who cares?
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, was one of the things that set our athletes up for success was we made sure that everybody had what they needed and that they dressed appropriately. But a lot of people's days were ruined by just making. It's sad, and I feel for all the athletes that ended up coming off the course yesterday that you've trained for such a long time, and all those hours of fitness and training was all thrown out the window because of a poor wardrobe choice.
Yeah. And to reiterate on that, or to add to that swim start situation, we were down there at 6:30, maybe quarter after 6, about 6:30, I think, standing there in line or close to the swim start, and I was sitting there trying to time my deal. So I was wearing my wetsuit, the bottoms, and I had my stuff dropped down with sweatshirts and hats and the gloves and the whole 9 yards on top. And then right about when I thought it was going to be maybe 15 minutes before the line started moving, I pulled up my top and zipped up. And I don't know, within 5 minutes, I was starting to get cold, the upper body. I wasn't wearing a top or anything. I was just, basically skin on under a wetsuit. And 5 minutes later, they said, well, the swim's going to be shortened. It's going to be delayed. This pro started at 8. And I immediately took it off and put my stuff back on because I was cold. I was getting cold already. And then, so my point of this is that people started lining up because it's like, all right, the pros went off, and that line moved so slow. And I know that most of those people were probably standing there wet feet or barefoot and their wetsuit on. And I'm sure they were getting cold, and a lot of people didn't get in the water till 9:30.
It looked
9:30,
yeah.
Standing in drizzling rain, bare feet on concrete in a plasticky cold top wetsuit. So, like, to add to your point, they were freezing before they got in, didn't have the time really to lather up and warm up in the swim, and then to add. And I want to keep this positive this time. We can go a little bit darker next time. But it was just the weirdest swim, man. They moved a few buoys out there. There was two. I saw two orange buoys off the jump and tried to go around those. And then after that, I couldn't get outside the second one. And I went inside, and the kayakers were yelling at me, and I have earplugs in. I couldn't hear, and she was like trying to kayak out in front of me, and I was like, "Come on, man!" I stopped. I said, "Can you get out of the way?" And they're like, she was yelling something, but I couldn't hear her. And I finally got around her, and then after that, I didn't see any more buoys. So the swim line or the course was not really even a course. I felt like it wasn't really a course, except there was one buoy that I noticed had started floating away out into the river. Actually, we noticed that beforehand, and I don't know if people were trying to get around that thing or it was just, Wild West out there. And I just made a decision finally. Just said, I'm swimming straight to where I think the swim exit is. Mm-hmm. And so it really wasn't a guiding line or anything like that. So I just wonder how many people got really kind of thrown out to the right into the channel a little bit and had to struggle to get over there. So yeah, but I think that's a really great point that the short swim wasn't enough to really get you totally warmed up, and then all of a sudden you're ready to go out. And I was so glad that we had that little discussion beforehand because I was torn between the performance side of the bike and the performance side of the bike, and I decided, I thought, well, because I could see how people could maybe get sucked in. It's like, well, I've kind of ridden in this kind of stuff before, and, you're going to warm up eventually and blah, blah, blah. I was so glad that I went with the kind of warm wind jacket.
Yeah.
Over the top of what I thought I might wear. So I wore what I thought might be okay, and then I put that on top. Plus wore, these really thick North Face gloves that I knew were going to be a problem, or I didn't feel like they're going to be the best bike handling gloves, or shifting. And
yeah.
So then I had all my nutrition in my kit, which was under that tight jacket. I couldn't get anything out of my back pocket, so I ended up using basically just using the aid stations for everything, because I just couldn't get those thick glove fingers into my kit and pull that thing up, and it was like hurting my shoulder because I was digging back there forever. So yeah, a lot of weird variables came into play on that thing.
You just had to be willing to improvise. Mm-hmm. Like yesterday, I always tend to feel that these long distance races and races in general kind of tend to fall into two categories. It's a performance day or it's a perseverance day. And I think overall, obviously, yesterday was a perseverance day, and it's because even on the bike, like it's hard to put power down when you're that cold. It just is. You're just not going to. But yesterday was just you. When I say that, I say you learn about how you're able to perform, and then you also on some days learn what you can persevere, and there were countless times when I was chatting with some of the athletes when they finished, and they just said that was the toughest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Mm-hmm. But they did it. Yeah. And it's but you had to be willing to just keep going. And even I'm sure everybody thought about quitting. I mean, I would, maybe not to a serious extent, but I'm sure across their mind, like, man, wouldn't it be nice?
I know. Yeah, I was praying for mechanical.
Nice? Exactly. Like, man, wouldn't it be nice to, have something go wrong and oops, yeah, I'm just going to go get warm in my hotel room and have a cup of hot chocolate and not suffer any longer. But they chose to, and they chose to do it because they loved it and they wanted it, and they set a goal and they wanted to meet that goal. And I think to the end, and to the other extent, like they wanted to find out what they were made of. Yeah. And I think that is a lesson that you cannot put a price tag on.
You can, that morning, the thought that kept rolling through my head was, because your body knows what's going down, but you're trying not to you're trying not to acknowledge it or whatever, but you're standing out in the dark rain at 6 a.m, and what's looming, and 99% of your body doesn't want any part of that. But you also know that, and it's sort of the same thing that people are always saying, why would you do Ironman? It's just not good for you, blah, blah, blah. You're hurting yourself, and that's just ridiculous. It sounds stupid or whatever. But the whole point is to to living is putting yourself through things that are tough, so you grow, and that you experience stuff that no one else will, get to feel, and so that you can excel and move on and be tougher and learn from these things. And that's the whole point. But that doesn't always mean it's fun. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like you have to force feed these things into your life. And that's exactly how I felt that morning. It was like, the simplest thing, they could have said, well, instead of the swim shortened, they could have said, the race is canceled. And there would have been this underlying thing of like, everybody would have been like, wow, phew, man, that's like, well, I was going to do it, but they wouldn't let me.
But if you're not doing it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, so I'm sure that's always like at play, right? And because I came out of, and I told you this story, but I came out of the water and was running. I had run up into transition. I yelled out my number, and they're like 6:11, and I went over. I knew my bags were like right there when I turned that corner, so I went right to the bags, and I saw 6:10 and 6:12 sitting there, and there was a big gap where my bike bag was. I was like, "Excuse me, where's my bag?" Mm-hmm. And I had to swear I put it there, and I triple checked it the day before. Like I maybe checked it 10 times because I wish I had see-through bags so you could see that your shoes and helmet were actually in there. Because I went back in there, I was like, did I actually touch both shoes? And well, whatever. But so my bag was missing, and part of me was like, what am I going to do? I thought I was done. That was the first thought that came over me was, what do you do here if your stuff's gone? But it's somewhere, but is it spewed around in the tent in a corner, and like you're never going to be able to find all the stuff? But so the only thing I could think of was just running in the tent and just shouting, but I walked right when I was running in there, some guy was running out of there going, "Hey, this ain't my bag." And I said, "That's my bag." And I just grabbed it from him. And I felt kind of bad because I was, understandably a little bit anxious about that situation. And I'd kind of spent about 2 minutes screwing around looking down the line. Was it out of place or whatever? And I grabbed it and ran over and sat in the chair. And they found his other bag quick, and he came over and apologized. And I apologized to him for being a little testy. But
you spent long enough transition. I didn't know what you were talking about in there.
Oh, I know. Well, I knew it was going to be long because of
it was like
there was so much stuff in my gear. I looked like I was going on an Alaskan expedition.
I'm sure everybody was like dumpster diving for like flannels and long johns in there. It was I remember like looking at transition splits, and I was like, this is the only day I'm ever going to hope that they take a long time in transition. Mm-hmm. Because it at least means they're doing what they were supposed to do and getting dried off and getting warm and making sure they're set. Like, don't be in a hurry in transition, like I said before the beginning of the podcast, just to go freeze to death. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Some of the wardrobe changes, but I was glad to see that, and I'm sure the transition, all the extra gear in there and and stuff, and the options made it even more like chaotic. Like I picture transition basically like being you shoved 8 to 10 naked dudes or women in the back of a Salvation Army semi.
It was very similar.
Yeah, it was like there's a little bit of this here, a little bit of this here, a little bit of this here, and I was waiting for somebody to come out in like a starter jacket, but that didn't happen.
It was absolutely packed in there, and that was the other thing with that short swim. I knew that everybody was getting out of the water at the same time, basically, and it was just jammed to the gills in that damn tent. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to get separation on a swim like that. Mm-hmm.
But I gotta say, I didn't feel like there was a big drafting problem out there.
Well, because nobody wanted to get, because they were going to get sprayed water in their face.
Yeah, that's true too. And I just obviously we talked about this before. Like a course like Louisville isn't super conducive to drafting because there's so many hills and turns and.
Well, and you add hills and turns, and then now you add wet roads.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you take the conditions making the time slower on the bike for sure, but then you also add people playing things a little bit more careful. You're not going to see people bombing descents. You're not going to see people taking corners really, really sharp. And so that again slowed things down. So I definitely think it's separated. Whereas any other race with a shortened downstream swim like that, you're going to have draft packs because everybody comes out together and in a short transition. But I thought the race broke up in transition, which will never happen again. Because some people chose to take 3 minutes and some took 6, and then you get on the course, or 10 or 20. It's like, I would love to see a breakdown of like the athletes that couldn't continue because of the cold, what their transition time was versus the ones who took the longest. But yeah, it was. I'm sure it was a crazy time in the transition area. It was for spectators as we were like trying to find our way around and be where we needed to be, but stay dry at the same time because it's such a long day. And I do have to say it makes coaching, quote unquote coaching, even though there's like really no coaching that goes on race day. It makes you being there so much easier when you have 20 other what feels like assistant coaches and your athletes running around checking on people and just generally concerned and invested in making sure that everybody does well, even if they've only met them like that morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting dynamic, and I think it's just a microcosm of what things could be in other areas of life. Some of these, a few of these athletes that I literally just met Friday, we're hugging and like crying and shedding tears like 48 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
Sweating and looking gross and doing all this, but nobody cares. But it's able to create connections with anybody you want to, if you actually want to.
Mm-hmm.
Like location means nothing anymore. Location means nothing. If anything, a lot of times you just put a cap on the number of people you have in your surrounding area to you're just basically shopping and fishing from a smaller pond. But when you can find a group, our Crushing Iron closed Facebook group is very much this, where you can just find like a group of people who attract other, hopefully like-minded individuals. You can get this connection and you can connect with people and you can become actual friends and you're invested and you hope it's not all about hashtag, beast mode or, dude, it's
I gotta tell you though,
everybody loves it, and it's crazy.
If there was ever a time I was flirting with beast mode, it might've been yesterday.
Yeah, hey, sometimes you got to go beast.
No, it's in all seriousness. Like the other thing about that is because I call the Louisville run course the long and lonely road, and that was one thing that definitely was, it was just nice because we had all those people here racing, and because you go out 6 miles basically and come back, and it's out and back, and then it's 2 loops. So I think almost everybody. Multiple times. See friendly faces out there. It definitely doesn't hurt.
Never hurts.
You know what I mean? Because it was. I don't know. I feel like most of because of the sunset up there, I'm feeling like a pretty good chunk of my second loop was even in darkness.
Well,
right? I can't remember. My whole head was in darkness, but.
Well, it was hard because it was overcast and gray the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was zero sunshine.
Yeah. All
day. And even 50 degrees and sunny is totally different than 50 degrees and clouds.
Yeah.
But I just noticed it was really, really dark and dreary all day.
It really was.
There was I don't want to say quick before I forget. There was like a silent waving of the Crushing Iron flag yesterday when I would see plastic grocery bags shoved in the top of people's kits.
Oh yeah, I did too.
It was like the secret handshake. It was like, I see you, I see me over there. And that was, I mean, obviously I'm not the only person on the planet that recommends that. It's actually pretty well known, but it was good to see a lot of those being used yesterday.
I think too there was another thing. when I was walking my bike to transition, I was noticing a lot of stickers perfectly cut on stems of bikes.
Hey,
I really was. It was unbelievable.
That goes a long way, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like that. Yeah, it looks exactly like how I have mine. You know, just perfectly trimmed, small, basically showing the top of the Ironman logo and your number, and it was just nicely affixed right to the whatever that piece is called. I guess it's
the stem. Is that what you're talking about?
Well,
the stem or the down tube?
The down tube. Or no, the stem. Yeah. Not
yeah,
the
we'll
seat.
we'll do Bike 101 on Thursday.
Yeah, well, you said something earlier that I thought was interesting about being cold and not being able to throw the same power. Because I definitely think that while I'm not disappointed in my run, I do think that bike, not inadvertently, but maybe a little inadvertently, because I didn't feel like I was going, man, I know I'm very capable of throwing down 19 miles an hour on this course, and I think I was at 18. And I don't feel like I did my traditional kind of blast the balls off the bike, And I thought I had held back, but I think, there was something going on there where that bike really took it out of me. And obviously it was the weather, but it's just...
Well, it was the temperature. It takes it out of you. It was the wind that takes it out of you. And then I think people underestimate the amount of extra energy that it takes your body to try and keep itself warm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're asking it's just really, really difficult to ask your body to go into survival mode and perform at the same time.
For that long, for sure.
For that long, because it has to make a decision. Am I going to go in a survival mode or am I going to go in performance mode? And then what happens, it's kind of like self-preservation and what happens. And so your body can't do it, and that's why a lot of people ended up, unfortunately, not finishing as you just go into survival mode. And it's like, then you're done. And I was even, at a lot of points, I was even scared for any of our athletes to start walking on the run because I was afraid that they were going to get way too cold because you can't generate any more temperature and raise your body heat up. But yeah, it's your body can't make that decision. So it's really cold and really hot are the same. Your body, you have to make adjustments because your body has to start using extra energy and it's also extra stress on the body that it has to work extra hard to maintain a certain body temperature. And if you're not helping it, then that's when things start to shut down.
Mm. Yeah, that's right there in a nutshell, man.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, yeah. And the other thing I found very interesting for me is like, I'm typically, because we had talked about the idea of it being cold, so hydrating and nutrition intake were probably not going to be as evident, it would have been easy to kind of forego that. And certainly I don't think I drank as much fluid as I normally would on a hotter day.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really force feeding it and trying to stay on top of the hydration piece. And I normally, pee on the bike a little bit. But yesterday it was unbelievable. I was like to the point where I thought I had a bladder infection or something. And then I was kind of worried about it. I'm like, what is going on here? And then I saw somewhere a thread posted on it. And people were like, yep, like constantly. And it's sort of this, I guess that's because your body's not sweating it out or something. I mean, I don't know what the thing is, but there's like 100 people in there saying that they were just going crazy all day. And it was like, my goodness. This is the wildest thing. I was just kind of laughing about it. Like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even drinking that much. I mean, like, where does this come? What is going on? It's like
I
going
had a
right
lot
in
of
and
people.
out.
I had a lot of people say that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh
good.
yeah, better to be hydrated than not.
Yeah. Holy moly's.
Holy moly's.
Holy moly's.
Yep. Holy moly's. But
Uh,
it's a big day, a long day, a tough day. But I think I said this to one of our, maybe it was Erica when she was coming out at like mile, where we were standing at mile 1, and she was asking about where she was and how she was doing. And I said I can tell you this. This will be the one you remember. Like
yeah.
this is one of those hat hangers. This is one of those, I remember doing Ironman Louisville back in 2018, and when it was this, and this. And it'll be the one that you'll draw on for, it's me one of those days where you remember and you'll pull from that experience in so many other situations, and you'll grow from it and you'll use it. And it was, it's a day that you should remember and cherish and never forget. And it's, we talked about it, I think last Monday or Thursday, I think, about how your memory and your body go numb when you hit that red carpet.
Mm-hmm.
And just to sit there and watch, like, emotion after emotion after emotion. Just it is one of the most special places in sports, and it is just so hard to describe to somebody that has no idea about it. Just go watch one and try to not be like overcome with some kind of like raw emotion that it will be hard to find anywhere else.
Yeah, because you saw the faces all day struggling out on the course, and the minute they come down that chute, it's like it's a relief, I think, beyond measure to get around that last corner and see the finish line. It's it's like you said, going through the toughest, one of the toughest days in your life maybe, and actually pulling it off. It's like, wow, 100 times I want to quit out here.
Yep.
100 times at least. And then also back to the day you'll remember thing. I had a friend that was always really good at laughing in the face of disaster. Like, he was an expert at seeing what was happening now from a future perspective.
Yeah.
And I always used to marvel at him because, there'd be these things that would happen that would seem, I can't. An example, like one time a bunch of us we were waiting for somebody to get over to meet us, and we were all going to the football game, and we were all late. We were kind of getting late, right? So we were worried about getting there in time and getting into this huge football game that we wanted to go see up in Madison. And the guy was late. And then finally he got there just in time to, all right, let's get going. We can just make it, and everything. And we all loaded in his car, and then he backed out and hit my neighbor's car. And my buddy just started cracking up, like belly laughing. I mean, it just ruined basically the whole day. And I'll never forget stuff like that, because I tried to I tried to keep a smile going yesterday, because I had convinced myself that I was going to try and have fun on this day, and it was sort of like laughing in the face of disaster, really, from the moment we started that morning, because there was only one thing you could do. You could control your attitude right there.
Yep.
And that's really what I was trying to do. And that stuff works. It's like you can either do this or not do it. So don't make it more miserable over the next 11 to 15 hours or whatever you're going to be doing it. Don't take yourself deeper into a darker hole.
It's just about it's just like so many other things in life. Like, stop focusing on what it isn't and focus on what it is. Like, people who says, oh, well, it's not going to be 80, and I don't know how to adapt, and I don't know how to do this, and it's not this, it's not this, it's not. Well, guess what? Nobody cares what it's not, because that's going to have zero effect on the day. It's about what it is. what is today? What are the conditions that I have? What's going to go down? Regardless, let's go. Because you can't change anything. But like you said, all you do is obsess over, what it's not or what it could have been instead of what we have in front of us and what we're going to do with what we have. And that's like the resiliency part of being able to persevere and find and achieve great accomplishments like finishing yesterday, is choosing to just choosing to keep going, and to move forward, and regardless of what happens, and just go. It'll be what it'll be. Big deal. I don't want to hear any excuses or oh, but the weather. Hey, it is what it is. Get out there and go it, and hopefully when you when you sign up for these events, you don't sign up for, all right, let's see, even though it seems like it when you have to click on and fill all these questionnaires when you sign up for an Ironman, it's not like, all right, Ironman Louisville 2018 weather. Let me drag my cursor up to 68. All right, click, and clear skies, partly cloudy. Click, and winds tailwind out. Click, tailwind back. Click, overcast skies in the run. Click, perfect. All right, register. But a lot of people have that mentality because they just assume, and you can't. Assuming and preparing are totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming in my opinion, when it comes to training and racing, assuming means that you don't have to do any work because the stars are going to align for you because. And it's usually just laziness and just being naive to think that way. Instead of, I'm going to prepare to the best of my ability to do the very best I can on this given day over these distances, no matter what. And that's the difference in mentality that people have. And I will guarantee you it is and was a huge difference in why some people crossed the finish line and some people didn't yesterday.
Had to be.
You got just. But it's hard. It's not easy. It's a, I 100% totally believe that the physical and mental, or the physical training for an Ironman, pales in comparison to the mental and emotional preparation these athletes go through, or should go through, in discipline and perseverance and overcoming obstacles and self-doubt and the mind games and all these things. It's the hardest part, but you have to believe. And I had an athlete text me this morning. I was asking her how she was feeling, and she said something like, we started this journey. I'll read it verbatim because my memory's going right now. She said, when we started this a year ago from basically nothing, I really wasn't sure it was actually even possible. And it just made getting to that finish line all the more special. And I said, well, I wasn't sure we could either, but I'm always willing to try. But that's the truth. I've never told anybody no, because who am I to tell you can't follow your dream? I think it's scary for a lot of coaches because they don't want to have a DNF on their resume, or they don't want that pressure. But people can do anything in their life if they really, 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 really want it. And I can't control how bad somebody wants something. I can help them along the way. I can hopefully provide good, sound, quality, healthy, fun training. But their want to, that's not me. I don't do any part of that. I'll guide them and hopefully help them mentally and emotionally along the way, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to push them out the door. They need to find that for themselves, because it's that inner discipline and inner fire that gets you through things like yesterday. Because as much as we joked about, having the motorcycle sidecar
on the course.
On the course.
Mm-hmm.
I was 100% totally comfortable with where I was with our athletes, because they weren't going to need a hand holding. They weren't going to need somebody to ride the course with an umbrella over their head. I knew they were tough. And they're not tough because of me. They're tough because they're just tough people. And I think I said this to you. I said that benefits you too, because you're just tough. We have tough people, and I love it, and it makes my job just an absolute blast. But you just got to put in the work. You got to work hard, and we've said this a million times, but if you want to do one, you can do one.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to choose to do it, and you have to decide for yourself that, this journey and this dream and this experience is worth X, Y, and Z. It's worth the time. It's worth the training. It's worth the investment. And if you doubt, what the feeling will be when you cross the finish line, go to one. Volunteer. Go watch the finish line and just watch these people's emotional breakdowns when they finish. I don't know if there's DNA in tears, but I probably have 21 different sets of DNA on my jacket shoulder right now.
Well, there is.
Earlier. Okay, good. It's
yeah, I mean, the other part to your point is that's another thing I like about our crew is that we have athletes at different ranges all over the place, and I think that you can't go out there and push their their toughness, their why necessarily. You can have them do it themselves, but there's a lot of people out there going through similar things in our group, and they talk, and they maybe somebody from yesterday will be able to impart some of their similar life experience, wisdom on someone else. And this is how I did it. This is what went through my head out there, and all these sorts of things. And everybody talks, and they kind of gravitate towards each other, and they help each other. And that was going on all weekend, with the cast and crew that was there supporting, to the athletes back and forth, and just the wisdom of sort of living through similar experiences way more valuable than maybe you sometimes as a coach telling them what to do. It's like they identify with the like-mindedness and the experiences they share together, and I just think that is so cool. Afterwards, sitting there, we kind of took over that pizza place a little bit, and there was probably 25 people in there helping each other out, helping do stuff or whatever, get them things. And I had people buy me unsweet tea for 4 straight hours because I couldn't get up, and it was awesome, man. And then going out and lining up along the finish line and getting everybody's attention as they came through and getting the hugs. It was just pretty cool. The day was what it was, and then that was even, kind of trumped everything else, I think.
Yeah, so stop telling me that triathlon is a selfish, solo, isolated sport.
I will.
I mean, you don't tell me that, but, people in general say that it's a solo. It's just not. It isn't. Well, you know what? It is, but it doesn't. But it doesn't have to be.
It's both. Yeah, it can be both.
It doesn't have to be.
I mean, because it's we all like to be isolated.
Well, I wouldn't
not
say
all
everybody.
of us, but I think you and I, and I think a lot of triathletes in general do. But
yeah.
But it's still, man, it's still so nice to be in a group and feel like you don't have to be Mr. or Miss Social all the time, but you have them there if you need them.
That's true.
That's kind of
yeah. You don't have to be Mr. Social like Butterfly like I am 24/7.
Yeah, I had to.
I mean,
I'm ready. Come on, you're talking to strangers all the time.
Hey, that's me, man. I'm Mr. Chatty Cathy. But no, congrats again, everybody who raced all over. And this is a late cast. We'll make it a little short, but we'll be back on Thursday with a regular full-length podcast. More lessons learned from Ironman Louisville, and we'll go over a quick little recap of the 2018 Ironman Kona World Championships.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody who yelled at me out on the course or said hi and said they loved the podcast and everything like that. And there were a lot of them, and I really want to thank you guys and girls for saying hi. And I, wish we had a little more time to chat out there, but I was, in a tunnel.
Busy.
I was in a tunnel a lot of times. I did my best, and if I just kind of waved, email me at crushingiron@gmail.com and say you saw me on the course, and let's start developing a friendship, and we can spend a little more time in races to come or whatever happens. Other than that, again, if you do like the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/crushingiron and give a little monthly donation, $3.26 a month or $13.26 a month, or the number you choose. We're open. But this really does feel, at least for a lot of us, Louisville feels like the cap on the end of the season. And I just want to let you know we're not going to be stopping. We're going to keep going all through the fall and winter, twice a week, Monday and Thursday, with our podcasts, and delivering stuff that hopefully helps you keep the enthusiasm and love of the sport, helps build the love of the sport, and all those types of things. That's sort of what we're going to be doing. So
just keep on keeping on.
Don't think we're going away just because we don't
have an off season, and neither should you.
No, I mean, this is just life season.
Life season.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's trying to trademark that right now. I can feel it.
Yeah, but
probably those Endurance Nation weenies that tried to trademark out season. What's
out
wrong
season?
with people? Yeah.
Hey, let them do what they do.
I'm gonna trademark Q4.
Oh, that's not bad.
Q1. Yeah, I think I gotta do that. Probably make a little residual income on the side. But we'll end it there. And appreciate your patience on a late podcast that is Monday, but we brought it to you. We came to you, and Mike, congrats on a great race yesterday.
Well, thank you. As I mentioned, it wasn't maybe what I thought going in, but I am very proud of the effort that it took, and I felt good. I felt like I trained hard, as you saw and witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
I was upset twice yesterday. Once was when I heard the announcement of the swim shortening, but frankly, it bummed me out because I had worked hard on the swim, and I felt like I needed to sort of air out a few cuss words or whatever.
Yeah, you did.
But
probably lost a few listeners.
Maybe, but I had to be true to myself, and I just was getting that out, and then I regrouped, and I was okay with it, and I was fine with it, and I'm ultimately fine with it in the end. It was just a reaction I had, and the second time I was mad at myself, or mad in general, was about 40 miles in when I saw that guy wearing shoe covers, full on bike shoe covers that were probably keeping his feet nice and dry, because that was the only thing that was really grating at me out on that bike. Was my feet were numb pretty much the whole ride.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing I missed, and I knew and the weird part was I walked to transition with plastic bags in between two pairs of socks, and my feet were just toasty. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Jamie Lopez said the same thing. He said plastic bags on his feet saved his day.
Yeah, Jesus. I couldn't believe he told me that today, and I was actually doing it before the swim. I don't know where that disc, but there's so many things to try and check off in a situation like that.
Always better to have than to have not.
Yeah. That's got to have something a little bit to do with your power transfer too, probably, huh?
Oh man, I have no idea. That's a whiteboard theory session.
Oh yeah, it's coming. That's another thing I'm going to start ramping up in the offseason. A lot of whiteboard, bro science on the board.
A lot of bro science coming. Hashtag bro science.
All right, man. Well, I'd like to say I got to get going and do something, but other than
you don't,
I've been laying in the bed here of my gracious Louisville hosts who put me up for the day after, so I don't have to rush out of town.
Yeah, enjoy, get some rest.
So thank you to them.
Yeah. And I'm gonna meet the maintenance guy to see if he can fix our dryer.
I feel like you could have a sitcom called Maintenance Guy.
Could have, man.
Every time I go over there, there's like a maintenance person leaving.
We had our warranty people come in and make sure the house after the 1 year is all spick and span. But yeah, it's looking. But now they schedule you between like 8 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Please be at the house. But yeah, it is what it is. Back to work tomorrow. Full throttle.
Full throttle. You're not taking a vacation?
Nah, no time. I got people racing this weekend. Arizona 70.3. Here we come.
Okay.
All right, man.
Well,
I'll see you Thursday.
All right, man. Transfer all that wisdom.
See you, dude.
See you, man.